Well, good morning and welcome to Florida's first Regional Leadership Summit and Statewide Teleconference, sponsored by the 6 Centers for Excellence in Mathematics, Science, Computer, and Technology Education. I'm your show host, Tom Neville, coming to you live from the Panhandle site location at Holmes County High School in Bonifay, Florida, which is the conference host site. Now, this event is being held because, well, for a number of reasons. First, the state is reaffirming its commitment to achieving world-class standards for students in mathematics, science, computer, and technology education by 1999. School administrators and teachers are asking for assistance with meaningful goals and strategies in their school improvement plans that address these subject areas. Parents, government, community, and business leaders, along with scientists, mathematicians, and engineers, all have a vested interest in ensuring that all of our students are successful in mathematics, science, computer, and technology education. Now, today you'll be participating in a crucial statewide exchange with teachers and others who see mathematics, science, computer, and technology education as areas that require focused attention and that can, in turn, contribute to overall school improvement. Now, you'll be asked to share your ideas and your strategies and concerns with each other and with regional and state leaders so that a coordinated plan of action can be developed. Right now, let's say hello to the other regional sites across the state. We go first to Region 2, which is in Gainesville, and we say good morning to Beth Switzer.
Good morning, everybody. We've had about 100 folks here in Gainesville that have been involved in this discussion, and they've been very, very involved and very excited about the whole process. So excited, in fact, that what they would really like is another day to be involved in this summit. One of the things that's been raised here as a primary point is that math and science education needs a very strong and real-world focus. It also needs to be very well integrated into the whole curriculum. These folks have said that one of the positive aspects of this is that all partners in the discussion here in Gainesville, whether they have been teachers, parents, school board members, folks from the business community or from DOE at the district level, have all felt that they had equal status and importance in this discussion. Mary Rich, who is the Center for Excellence Director here in Gainesville, says that networking has been real important to our participants. They say that the connections made have been invaluable and will last well beyond this two-day summit. Carolyn Kitchens, who is our lead facilitator here in Gainesville, I think summed it up best when she said that there's been a big challenge, but it's been a lot of fun. Thanks. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. And right now we'll check in with Region 6, which is Miami, and we say good morning to Sandy Dempsey. Sandy? Sandy?
Good morning, Tom. And welcome and hello to everyone throughout the state from WLRN in Miami. We're delighted. The studio is full here this morning, and we're very, very pleased to be participating in the largest interstate active teleconference in the state. It's terrific, and we're ready.
All right, fantastic. We want to make a special mention right here. If you're watching in the audiences around the state, you'll notice sometimes it looks a little bit like a Japanese film, and our lips are not quite in sync with our words, and that is because of technology, basically. We are using the audio over a phone line, and the video is coming over a satellite feed, so you see a little bit of difference there, but the folks around the rest of the state are obviously seeing this in its true form, but we appreciate your patience on that matter. Now let's check in with Boynton Beach. Here's Debbie Stewart. Good morning, Debbie.
The first surprise you have is my name is Vern Crawford. I'm sort of filling in for Debbie Stewart, and thank you, Tom. We're very excited to be here from WXEL in Boynton Beach, and with our guest responders, Jane Hart from Palm Beach County Schools, Scott Ellington from Florida Atlantic University, Carol Newman from Broward County Schools, and Bill Wargo from the Florida Department of Education. Likewise, we would like to have more time. We also look very much forward to a follow-up conference or maybe a series as the ensuing months progress. Our sessions have been handled by Joe Abelos, who has been the lead facilitator from the school district, and of course special thanks to Pamela Brewster Owens, who has been handling it on behalf of the directorship for the Gold Coast Center. And we look forward to getting back to you. Now back to you.
All right, thank you. That was Vern Crawford, and we appreciate that update. We especially appreciate the folks in that part of Florida. We understand that they had some severe weather yesterday, and it probably wasn't the easiest thing in the morning to get them up and on the satellite this morning, but we appreciate their hard work overnight for the folks in that part of eastern Florida and southeast Florida particularly, or southwest, excuse me. Now let's check in with Sal Farrow, who comes to us from Region 4 in Tampa. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Tom, and welcome to Tampa to our Leadership Summit in Region 4 here at WEDU Studios in Tampa. We've had about 70 people working very diligently, and they've all been very excited, and much like the other areas, those people consist of people from the community, business people, school administrators, and teachers. And our responders will be for today as we continue. Julius Hobbs, who is the manager of Community Relations and Educational Service, Tampa Electric Company, here in Tampa, of course. Nancy Marsh, Secondary Science, Hillsborough County Schools. Anita Hawker, Science Supervisor, of the Sarasota Schools. And Catherine Tracy, Director of Curriculum for DeSoto County Schools. And we look forward to getting into the conference. Back to you, Tom.
All right, thanks. And now to Region 3, which is Orlando, and we say good morning to Phil.
Good morning. This is not Phil. It's Elizabeth Raley coming to you from Orlando, the Space Coast region. We're here this morning at WCPX, and honored we are to be a part of this teleconference on education. We are quite honored with a full panel of distinguished guests, but one I'd like to mention very specially is Tracy Bailey, the National Teacher of the Year, and we will hear from Tracy much later in our program. So, back to you, Tom.
Okay, now thank you to Elizabeth, and obviously the folks here in Holmes County at the high school here. We can't see everybody, and now they can in Chipley at our, where everything is being coordinated. We'll show you that setup in just a few minutes. Now we check in with Tallahassee. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be with you this morning and excited to be able to participate through satellite in this most important summit. I understand through staff that you all have been exceptionally productive in your work yesterday, and I thank you for your effort. Those of us here in Tallahassee, in the Department of Education, and in the legislature, realize that it is your work that will continue to move our state forward in meeting our needs in the areas of math, science, computer, and technology education. As we seek to expand our economic base and diversify our economy, your work is critical to the economic viability and vitality of Florida. I believe that the ideas and recommendations that you share with participants around the state today will have great impact on the course of education throughout Florida. I think this is especially significant because more than half of the folks gathered together in the last 2 days are teachers, making this summit truly a grassroots policy-making effort. We're also very fortunate to have representatives of the state's business community with us yesterday and today. Your insights on what employees need to know in our high-tech industries is critical to deciding what our schools will provide in the future. I want to thank those of you who are from business and industry for your input. We educators can't succeed without you. While you've been hard at work in your meetings around the state, we've been hard at work in Tallahassee. This week, in fact, as we speak, the legislature is deciding on the state's $38 billion budget. And unfortunately, because the legislature is in session today, I won't be able to stay here with you for as long as I'd like. I hope you'll understand.
We'd like to know, how do we get time for teachers
I've been asked to
plan for all of these
ponder
changes
a
that are being
question.
suggested?
Yes. I believe I had a bit of a problem hearing the question.
We get time for teachers to plan for all of the changes that are being suggested here.
Well, that's a really good question, and I wish there was an easy answer for you. I will tell you that in the commissioner's budget this year, there is a recommendation of additional training days to ensure that our teachers are allowed to be able to come together to develop strategies on implementing an applied curriculum, an integrated curriculum, and if the legislature accepts our proposal, we intend to permit teachers to be able to come together and improve their delivery and innovation and creativity through appropriate training efforts. I know that change, and any change like you, takes time. Time to think about how changes will affect us, time to plan what we'll do to make it happen, time to take those ideas and plans to parents and the community at large, and time to make sure that the changes planned are the right changes. And as I said, none of that is particularly easy. My suggestion to you is that you go back to your schools and incorporate time for those changes in your school improvement plans, as Blueprint 2000 suggests. Those of you who are administrators or district supervisors, I urge you to be creative in setting up time for your teachers to plan for change together. Maybe that can mean a regular time each month for teachers to meet in groups, or a longer retreat twice a year. Maybe you can dismiss students early once a week, or release a teacher for part of the day to be a change facilitator. All types of options are available to you through the school improvement process. You can apply to me for waivers if you need them. You can ask for our state facilitators if you'd like our assistance. But however you set it up, you simply must make time to plan and make the changes we all agree are needed in our schools. I regret that I really must go. Thank you for allowing me this short part of your most busy and productive day. Please keep up your hard work. I'll look forward to hearing your recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. That was, of course, the Commissioner of Education here in Florida, Mr. Ed Jamerson, and we certainly appreciate your time, sir, this morning. We now are very excited to go down to our Orlando site for the National Perspective. Tracy Bailey joins us this morning. Tracy is Florida's National Teacher of the Year. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning. How are you doing? Well, I'm excited about this opportunity to have a chance to share with you some things from a national perspective, and I appreciate this. Elizabeth, are you going to host me here a little bit, or should I just take off and give my speech?
Well, I think I can host him if he'd like. Tracy and I were speaking this morning, along with the rest of our Space Coast audience, about his travels in the last year. He's traveled over 30,000 miles and talked to legislators, talked to senators, talked to educators all over the nation. What he'd like to address this morning is his own personal perspective on what we're doing in Florida that is right, and what we can do here in Florida that will motivate our teachers. Tracy.
Thank you. And I have to say that it has been an intense period of travel. Most of my time effort is 30,000 miles a month. I've traveled about 500,000 air miles in this last year. So I have had a chance to see and work with governors and state superintendents and departments of education and see what they're doing. In comparison, I think two areas stand out significantly that Florida is doing very, very well in. Certainly the school improvement effort, Blueprint 2000. Almost every state has some type of systemic reform effort, but all too often many states have made the mistake of simply having imposed higher standards and saying, there it is, we want higher standards, but you're going to work in the same old system. You know, more of the same, screwed down tighter is the way a Southern legislator explained that to me. Working harder in an inefficient system or a system that may be a little off target is not going to get the job done. So the system of continuous improvement, the system of bringing businesses and parents and all the shareholders into a community problem-solving approach that Florida has, that is an efficient strategy, and it's one I think right now that we need to set on fire a little bit more. And certainly the second area that I think Florida is doing very, very well in is this area of technology, with the Retrofit for Technology grants, the technology incentive monies, the companion project that followed that up to provide equipment and training. Certainly that 30% of the dollars that were earmarked for training and for teacher stipends is a fantastic idea that has not been all that common in the past. The best thing about the technology initiatives, both retrofit and tech incentive, is that they provide for some strategic planning. It's not just the fact of getting the infrastructure in the schools. It's not just getting more computers. It goes far deeper than that. The strategic planning that is required for schools to win that money or for schools to use that money effectively is an opportunity for the math teachers and science teachers and computer teachers to get together and for the first time in many cases to begin to break down the walls. How are we going to integrate our disciplines? How are we going to create a vision of what our classes should look like 3, 4, 5 years in the future? That type of planning so often doesn't occur. We know the educators here in the audience that all too often innovative educators retreat back to their classroom, they close the door, and they innovate in isolation. They do a great job with that group of 30 or 35 students. Those students are blessed and fortunate to have that speedboat, to have that energetic teacher going, but that teacher isn't used as a resource to help train and renew and refresh the others. I think the strategic team planning is something that is the primary benefit of the technology incentives. They go hand in hand, school improvement and technology planning together. In my experience as a classroom teacher, I would say that one of the areas of greatest need, of my greatest needs and sources of my greatest frustration, and I'm sure it's a common feeling throughout our audience, is the feeling that when I needed to get professional development in a different area, not simply something offered by the one-day, one-size-fits-all district in-service, the professional development needs of learning how to do more technology education, learning how to wire a computer network for our science department, doing more of the DNA fingerprinting or the lightning research that's specific to my science area, or even finding the time to get out of my classroom and lock the doors and tell the students, I'm not going to be around after school for a while. I need to go down to the technology studies room so that instructor and I can collaborate and learn how to integrate my physics and chemistry courses with all the wonderful equipment and the hands-on strategies that they have in that applied technology course. That type of professional development and planning is an area that we need to do better in. Certainly, I think that we have the opportunity in Florida. I think that we have the system in place. But if I were to try to paint a picture for you, I think that we need to start a fire. We need to use a catalyst. If I were to offer some suggestions for improvement, areas for improvement, I would say that the centers of excellence, perhaps, can be a catalyst here. That in addition to the training that you're doing, to bringing teachers in, that you should think about forming strategic planning teams in every school that you serve, having the math, the science, the computer teachers. Certainly this is a first step in that, but having them come together and go back out with a mission, with a gospel to preach and a plan to infiltrate and to implement that strategy throughout the school. It's a matter of focusing resources on those innovative teachers, the ones that are going to be a planning team, a tech team, to take those changes out to the rest of the faculty. We need to do that more and more. As a matter of fact, suggestion number 2, and I don't know if our commissioner is still on the line. By the way, I was so glad to see when he began speaking that all of our lips got in sync. At least that's what it was down here in Florida. What leadership we have. For Commissioner Jamerson, I would offer another suggestion. Certainly the 5 days of planning is a fantastic initiative, and I hope that goes through the legislature. In addition to that, we might think about, or at least perhaps even having some of that money used as a strategic team incentive approach. In other words, we have technology incentive dollars for providing some professional development with computers and technology education. Why don't we have some incentive dollars to create these strategic teams, to light a fire under school reform, to drive innovation and success in every school? A gentleman explained it to me one time that in education as well as in any business, there are speedboats, barges, and rocks, the different personality types. And we know that most of our technology teachers, a lot of those end up being the speedboats, the early adopters, the risk takers. Most of you involved in this conference probably are that type of individual. How can we get the most out of those teachers? How can we get the most out of them, provide the environment that they need to thrive in to be energetic and creative? And how can we use them then as a resource to improve and to retrain and to renew and to refresh the rest of the faculty at that particular school? That's the key challenge facing Blueprint 2000 and our technology efforts. How can we leverage off of those to get the most planning, the most success in technology, and to light a fire under every school improvement team in the state so that there are weekly successes, weekly solutions, weekly innovations going on, and not the occasional, once a month, once every 3 months, a little change here. That's the type of fire that I'd like to see, and I think this teleconference is a good step in that direction. Thanks very much.
The whole audio went down because his dish was out. Testing 1, 2. Okay, we think we are back on. We don't know if we're broadcasting again. We had a little audio difficulty. Okay, we are okay. All right, we're back at the host site in Holmes County High School in Bonifay, Florida, and obviously we just heard from our Teacher of the Year, Tracy Bailey. Fantastic speech, and it is obvious why he received that honor, and certainly worthy of that in his own area. Right now, we have a very interesting perspective to share with you, and we're going to go to Chipley, which is the home of the Panhandle Area Educational Cooperative, PAEC, and they're the folks that are behind all this, not those mistakes, but behind the entire teleconference. And obviously, it is a lot of technology involved, and we're going to have a few little glitches here and there, but it seems that everything is going okay so far. Let's check in with the folks in the control room over there. We'll give you a little bit better perspective about how this entire thing is put together. And you see there in the control room, Scott Lancaster, who is providing our graphics today, and he's the man that is putting up folks' names and such as that. Also, Roland Phillips is with us today. He is our engineer on location, and Roland's job is to interface 8 different sites across the state of Florida. And not here are any of the other sites, but in Chipley, they can see all the sites simultaneously. They actually have each one of us up in a small monitor. Now, Rick Everett is the director, and Rick's job is to push the button that makes each one of us come up. And he'll be directing the entire production today and the rest of our presentation to you at home and in the audiences around the state. And again, Rick's job, as he previews what is going on at each site as we go to the different locations around the state, is to actually press the button that makes that happens. So that's one other important thing. Gail Obert is running our audio on location today. So it's just a multitude of different people, and on each location around the state is a complete staff. I know here at my location we have Mike Sheffer from WSRE out in our satellite truck. Everybody's doing a fantastic job, and we're just thrilled to death that everybody's able to talk to each other today. Right now we'll give you a brief video presentation that gives you a little bit better idea about some things going on.
We're here today at the request of the Florida Regional Leadership Summit with Mr. Peter Yates, software entrepreneur and founder of the Suncoast High-Tech Council. Mr. Yates, tell us a little more about the Suncoast High-Tech Council and its aims.
Well, the Suncoast High-Tech Council is an organization of business and academic leaders in Sarasota and Manatee counties who are committed to forging permanent links between business and education to help create an economic climate which will attract more high-tech jobs to our region. The council is open to anyone with an interest in the high-tech arena, hackers, professionals, old, young, and we have regular forum meetings to learn and share information about this new era of digital computing.
The question for this summit is, what is the view from our vantage point in 1994 of the classroom in 2010 and beyond?
Let me answer by recalling that I spent the first half of my life as a student and teacher. The second part of my life I've devoted to the information processing revolution. These two branches of knowledge processing, learning information and processing information, are converging in this new age of digital multimedia, creating new opportunities for all of us to create better living standards for our communities.
You seem to be suggesting that we're seeing more than just a technical change as we approach the end of the 20th century.
Indeed we are. For the first time since our information age dawned in the 1960s, we're at a point where our achievements in computing and telecommunications have created the knowledge superhighway that is being reported on so widely as the information superhighway. Actually, for the first time, we're becoming a knowledge-based society.
In this new digital age, does the role of education change?
Well, not only education changes, but the entire community role is changed. The way we communicate and interact is becoming seamless and instantaneous. The barriers of time and space are collapsing. Information access is opening up exciting possibilities and creating new communities based on common interests, the so-called virtual communities.
You were telling me earlier that learning has changed. Could you explain how?
Yes. The happiest coincidence of all is really the extremely close fit that exists between the new multimedia capabilities of the computer and natural learning. In effect, learning has not changed. Computing has changed. Computers are now equipped to pass on information more naturally via video, sound, images, animation, and text. This means people can have access to information in a more human form, using most of their senses to learn and not being limited just to text-based presentations of knowledge. Historically, humans have learned from other humans in a multimedia form using words, sounds, pictures, diagrams, demonstrations. In other words, an interactive or Socratic type of dialogue. However, when humans learn from sources other than people, we revert to the linear method, the book, and its analog, the personal computer, the beginning to end format, which is not as natural as interactive learning. Socratic learning, or interactive learning, is more natural to our instinctive way of learning, I believe. And the consequences for multimedia learning will mean a seismic shift for our society as we approach the end of this millennium.
So a picture being worth 1,000 words is more true than ever.
Absolutely. But a full motion picture, plus sound, plus animation, in addition to words, is worth infinitely more than words or text alone.
What is the state of the art in terms of hardware and software, and what does this mean to our communities?
Well, the information superhighway already exists inside the PC. Video, text, and sound move around the PC's own internal highway. Between separate PCs, it's a different matter. Simultaneous transmission of text, video, and sound is coming, but it's not at the same stage of development as the terminal, the PC, the television, the teleputer, or the personal digital assistant.
We keep reading all about the new alliances forming in the knowledge processing business. What is your view on this trend?
Well, the shifting alliances in the computer and communications wars are producing winners and losers. The big winners, however, are the children. Because the new lingua franca of the digital age is most easily adopted and adapted by the children, and suddenly their horizons have been expanded. Like the generations that came after the invention of writing, the printing press, and the computer, theirs is going to be a generation that will move effortlessly away from the linear to the interactive.
This new knowledge processing industry appears to be a wealth creator for the next century.
Indeed it is. And the great news is that this latest revolution is American to the core. U.S. leadership in software, communications, and content is supreme. However, the U.S. was also once supreme in refrigerators and cars and became complacent, and we mustn't forget that.
How should communities prepare themselves?
This knowledge revolution is very democratic. The more access to information is opened up, the more power is shared and decision-making deepened and broadened. It is the community, by the will of its people and its citizens, seizes the day and decides to join, and that's the one that will win. It will cost, however, to wire the schools, the communities, business, and government. It will cost to bring teachers and students, business and civic leaders together. But the cost of not doing this will be tragic for the children of those communities who choose not to build their part of the information superhighway.
Are these the communities that are being described by the term technopolis?
Well, in a way, but that word has a hardness to it, suggesting that they are standing alone in their wisdom. I prefer the term virtual communities, which suggests a less finite or bounded entity and one based more on sharing.
What can educational, technological, and civic leaders do?
Number one, build a consensus to change and adapt instead of clinging to the past. Secondly, meet and genuinely commit to the idea of communal awareness via a set of jointly agreed goals to join the digital age. Number three, wire the community, the schools, the homes, the business and government. And number four, wire the kids.
Will the payoffs be dramatic?
Well, I believe so. Statistics show us that pay in this sector is double that of the service sector. The tax benefits to the community would, of course, be immediately evident. And a happy corollary to all of this is that the jobs that are created are green jobs.
It would seem that we have nothing to lose by investing in our infrastructures?
Well, that's right. And the new unit of investment, or currency, is knowledge. And the key to wealth creation is leveraging the knowledge workers' productivity. With man's knowledge base doubling every 2 years, leveraging productivity is not going to be too difficult. Open up the highway of knowledge and open up the human mind, and the potential is unlimited. Change is rapid and inevitable, but the message is clear, and I think we should all embrace and welcome change. And finally, I'm grateful to have been given the opportunity to address a group who, by definition, have seen the light in Florida. Thank you very much.
Well, we are back live in Holmes County, and we are right now going to give an overview of some of the things that happened in the past 24 hours. First of all, we had a really successful day at all the sites yesterday. Each of the sites addressed 4 key areas: curriculum, materials, and assessment, teachers, teaching, and technology, policies for equity and excellence, and partnerships with parents, business, and community. Emerging from these areas were recommendations and creative ideas that represent your best thinking from around the state. Now, we've summarized the recommendations to give you a sense of the region's perspectives on each of these issues. Now, we may not be using the exact words that you came up with because we've tried to condense these recommendations into their essential ideas, and there are some clear priorities that have emerged. Now, in the area of curriculum, one set of priority recommendations is to develop a relevant, integrated, interdisciplinary curriculum that includes applied courses so that more students can learn and understand mathematics, science, computer, and technology education. The idea is to focus on how students learn and what students know. Another set of recommendations deal with instructional materials. The textbook adoption process and the textbook-centered curriculum need to be updated to embrace the new multimedia materials that are available and the national standards as well as the state curriculum frameworks. Now, in the area of assessment, several ideas surfaced. Assessment should be based on the notion that all students can learn. It is suggested that assessments be performance-based, outcome-oriented, and used for continuous improvement of school programs. Teachers and schools should use assessment alternatives that utilize technology and ask students to apply what they have learned. Teachers, teaching, and technology is the second area. There are several priority recommendations regarding the integration of technology in the classroom. Teachers want more education and assistance with integrating technology in mathematics and science courses. They want more staff development opportunities, technical assistance in the schools, assistance with obtaining technology equipment, identifying appropriate software, and retrofitting the schools. Now, teachers want to know how to use this technology as a tool to teach smarter, not harder. Another important area for teachers and teaching is targeting specific strategies to ensure the success of students who have been traditionally underrepresented in mathematics and science, including minority and female students, limited English proficient students, at-risk students, and students with special needs. Research and experience has shown that if we can improve mathematics and science education for minority and female students, we will improve it for all students. The strategies that work well for minority and female students also work well for other students. Another recommendation is to make sure that the mathematics, science, and education courses that teachers take in colleges and universities model the strategies and content that they are expected to teach in our schools. An extension of this idea is to have teacher mentors, lead teachers, or master teachers to guide teacher colleagues who want to learn new techniques. The third area is policy. An important area for policy concerns equitable funding and resources. A priority recommendation is to ensure that all schools have the funds and the resources they need to have quality programs regardless of their makeup of their student population. In some cases, this may mean having enough teachers to teach upper-level mathematics and science, or enough computers and equipment to offer computer and technology education courses, but all students need to have access to the same opportunities. Flexibility came out as an important policy issue. Recommendations were made to expand flexibility in the areas of funding, student and teacher scheduling, curriculum content, textbook purchasing, staff development, or staff developing planning, and certification. The point was made that we have the opportunity for flexibility in all these areas through the waiver process and the school improvement plans. Administrators and teachers need to work together to accomplish this. Leadership is another policy concern. Leadership needs to be developed at all levels. For example, it is suggested that teachers need to be supported in their new roles as policymakers in site-based management and school improvement. Another policy concern is about a lack of alignment between a school's vision and the actual direction in which the school is moving. One recommendation is to have school personnel set short-term goals that are directly related to their agreed-upon mission. Then the school can be held accountable for implementing and making adequate progress towards those goals. The fourth area is partnerships. One recommendation for partnerships is to coordinate resources, including funding, facilities, materials, and personnel among schools, universities, and colleges, non-formal sites such as museums and government agencies such as NASA. Collaborative relationships among these groups can include sharing technology and exchanging ideas through distance learning. Another recommendation is to increase and improve media coverage of mathematics, science, computer, and technology education. Teachers and schools can develop relationships with the media so that coverage of these subjects attracts the attention that they deserve. This is an area where parents can be involved in as well. All of the regions expanding partnerships with business. Each region came up with different strategies, ranging from creating an advisory board with a broad range of members to offering tax breaks for businesses who have active partnerships with schools. The groundwork has already been laid through the SCANS report, which offers direction from the business community to education about preparing students to enter the workforce. Recommendations were made to build on that connection by involving students and teachers in mentoring and internships, and by having business share technology and expertise with schools. There were many more issues and priorities discussed during the summits yesterday, and if your issues were not addressed in this summary, your concerns may be raised during the question and answer period coming up in just a few minutes. In addition, there will be a more detailed report produced of the results of the summits, in which more of your recommendations will be made available to legislators and policymakers at the state level. We ended our summary with a recommendation for expanded business partnerships, and we now have, well, we already went to Peter Yates. I'm sorry, I was going to throw it back to our video commentary we had a few minutes ago. I think at this point we are going to start our questions and we do have Dave with us, okay? We're going to check in right now with Miami, and they have a question, I think, that is going to be addressed to one of our panels here in Holmes County. Let's go right now to Miami.
Okay, Tom, before we ask our first question, I'd like you to know that we have 131 brilliant educators in our studio here today. And while I can't introduce all of them, I would like to introduce the people sitting directly to my right. James Serra, who is principal of Miami Lakes Middle School. Cecilia Hunter, principal of Liberty City Elementary School. Geneva Woodward, district director of the Dade County Public Schools. And Barbara Shapley, team leader, school improvement, Florida Department of Education. And now our first question from Nancy Gore, a teacher at Horace Mann Middle School.
Good morning. This question is directed to David Britton. When will there be district and state funding to support a certified teacher as the technology coordinator in every school? What steps are being taken, and when will this happen?
That's a very good question. Of course, we believe that there should be technology coordinators in every school. As a matter of fact, I like the idea that Tracy Bailey suggested a while ago, strategic technology perhaps is something we ought to pursue. Specifically, as far as your question is concerned, my hope is that districts will begin to fund right away technology coordinators. I don't think, however, you're going to see the state anytime soon funding technology coordinators, because we're in fact moving away from categoricals. That is, we're moving away from providing funds to schools for specific purposes. Instead, we believe funds should go to the schools in order to allow them to make decisions about how best to use those funds. As far as the specific idea, certainly there is a need for technology coordinators in the schools. For example, one of the steps that we're taking to respond to your question is that one of the big issues at a school is network management. We are providing training workshops around the state for network management certification on the part of local, both district and school people, so that they can address one of the key problems that are encountered in a school setting. So that's the steps that we are taking to help with that particular issue.
All right, David Britton from the Department of Education, we appreciate that response. And now I believe we're going to go to Boynton Beach for our next question.
Thank you, Tom. We have a question under the category of partners, and I'd like to have it directed, if possible, to Julius Hobbs of Tampa Electric in Region 4. The question is, how do we get the community to participate? For example, visiting the schools. understanding the diversity of our school population.
And for the response to that question, we will go now to Tampa.
Thank you very much for that question. I think one of the best things that we can do is to create an environment that is inviting for the parents and the community to participate in the schools. If the parents and the teachers don't create the environment, the business community will not come in. Many of us as individuals, the last thing we remember about schools is our individual participation in those schools. Our individual participation in those schools, and has not been, we have not been back in the schools for several years. So if the environment is friendly and warm, we will come in. In Hillsborough County, we created the Great American Teach-In a few years ago, and last year we had 7,000 business, community, and civic leaders in the classroom, and this is the best way to determine what the business environment is like for the students, that is, for them to talk with the students, give them experiences, examples of what business they're in and how it works. It should be all areas of business, not just the ones of the major businesses, but the small businesses as well. We have a great diversity of students in our schools. We have a great diversity of businesses, and we should include all of those businesses in the classroom.
All right, thank you. That is from Tampa, and we now go to Gainesville to Lee Shiver for our response. Oh, I'm sorry, the question is from Tampa, and we'll go there first. Now we throw it to Tampa.
Thank you. This question, of course, is, as he said, for Lee Shiver in Gainesville, and it pertains to policies. What is presently being done to help legislators and policymakers relate their actions and decisions to Blueprint 2000? That's for Lee Shiver.
And now to Gainesville, and let's check in with Lee Shiver for the response. Lee?
Okay, well, as much as everyone thinks that we're doing and hoping that we're doing, and Beth, you want to go to this or over to me, because that's Beth.
Well, and now they've got you, Lee. One of the things that we're going to do in just a little bit is to introduce the members of our panel, but since that question was addressed directly to you, Lee, we'll turn it over to you.
That's fine. Thanks, Beth. You're a good person. As much as we all say that good things are happening, we're off to a heck of a good start. And a lot of things are happening with regard to helping legislators and policymakers relate their actions, decisions to what's happening in Blueprint 2000. The best thing, though, that we have going for us, I think, is the fact that our new commissioner, Commissioner Jamerson, was one of the chief architects of Blueprint 2000. And his leadership for the department and his strong relationships with members of the legislature I think is going to certainly enhance our efforts in making sure they understand what we need to do and our direction. One of the difficulties, however, is that as we move along in this process, the legislature is very sensitive to how this is playing out in the schools, in the districts. Sometimes there is a desire to tinker with or modify or change somewhat the original blueprint. And sometimes it's difficult to see that those kinds of decisions and policies need to be referred back to the local level, that should be where many of these issues are resolved at the local level. So we're working on that. More and more people need to be involved in those issues locally if we're going to make a situation in which we're not always looking to the legislature to say, here's the new law, here's the new mandate for how this is done. In addition to those relationships in the legislature, we're lucky also that with the new commissioner in the department, he's going to help us do a heck of a better job of walking the talk. We all need to do a better job of that. We're looking forward to that. I would say to the people, though, that are participating in the teleconference and the summit and are watching, we're past the time when you need to be looking to others to make the decisions about how this is to be done. More and more of us need to take personal responsibility for moving initiatives in math, in science, technology, education. Looking to others to do this is not going to help Blueprint 2000 take effect in schools. Communicating with each other and talking about how this is going to be done is the way to move it. Other things that we've been trying to do and we've accomplished, every school advisory council chair in the state was recently surveyed about Blueprint 2000. The results of that survey are being compiled. They're going to be reported to the Accountability Commission. to the legislature, to the Department of Education, the commissioner certainly, and results will be sent back out to districts and schools. The Auditor General's report recently went out, and actually the Auditor General's office sent people out taking a look at how Blueprint 2000 is being implemented. Those reports have been made to the Accountability Commission, to the legislature, so that they can understand how this is working in schools and districts, getting through again to legislators and policymakers. The Accountability Commission has been holding public hearings for over 2 years throughout the state, gaining input so they can understand the issues, local issues and things that obviously impact state-level policy. Their leadership and collectively, and the leadership of the individual Accountability Commission members is making a huge dent in changing the way we do things in public schools in Florida. Certainly, probably one of the most powerful things as far as training and the changing in attitude, one of the most powerful things that's happening in our schools has to do with the leadership of school boards. The School Board Association and certain members of school boards, especially the leadership, is making certain that that training is going on so they can, in fact, develop those policies that is going to make Blueprint 2000 a reality in the schools, and also change a little bit of the perspective about how the leadership of this should change in order to make Blueprint 2000 the reality that we all want it to be. I guess finally, the thing that we all need to keep in mind is these kinds of questions about how legislators and policymakers respond need to continue to think about how is it that all participants become part of this process. How is it that a parent, a business partner, the superintendent, the principal, how is it that everyone becomes a part of this process and continues the development of the plan? And I think that's also part of what this summit's all about.
All right, thank you from Lee Shiver, and we are now going to go into Orlando where they have a question. Orlando?
Good morning. I have a question from Ann Stratton, who is a teacher, and she is asking this question of Mr. Glenn Thomas.
Glenn, how can technology education be used as a link to integrating curriculum?
Well, Ann, that's a great question, and traditionally as teachers, as we've thought about technology, we've based our perception around computers. You know, if it was a computer, it was technology. But when we talk about technology education, we're talking about the breadth of technologies. We're talking about electronic publishing, we're talking about video devices, we're talking about robotic arms and electronics. And in some of our schools today, about 150 of our schools, you can walk into labs, kindergarten through high school, and see students in pairs working in areas independently, doing problem solving, working with a variety of technologies. The teacher in those settings is a facilitator, a person behind the scenes, not the person out front, not the sage on stage, the chalk talk kind of person, but that facilitator moving the process along. It's a very natural environment for integration to occur, because how do you do electronic publishing without having something to say? It's a very natural environment to teach science and mathematics, because the mathematical models that we learned in abstract can now be used and tested and applied in a very real setting. And for science, it's basic science principles that make those robotic arms move, that make the microchips in those computers work. So it's a natural environment, it's an open environment. Those teachers need content and need those linkages to bring technology to life. And integration is a reality in Florida, and certainly in those technology labs.
Okay, thank you for that. And we now go to Gainesville, and we're going to check in with our next question. Gainesville?
Great, thanks, Tom. Before we address our question, and we have a question for Tracy Bailey, we want to introduce the members of our panel that are joining us here in Gainesville today. First of all, let me introduce you to Robert Caldwell, who is the Program Specialist for the Department of Education in Technology Education. We also have with us Betty Warner, who is the President of the Florida Association of Math Supervisors. Henry Hirschman is also here, and Henry is the General Manager of Georgia Pacific Corporation. Thanks for being with us. And folks around the state already met Dr. Lee Shiver, who is the Chief of the Bureau of School Improvement with the Department of Education. Thanks for being with us, Lee. Now, we do have a question, as I mentioned earlier, for Tracy Bailey. Our question, elementary teachers already use alternative assessments fairly well. How do we encourage secondary teachers to embrace that concept? And our question goes to Tracy Bailey.
Sure, and that is an excellent question.
To Orlando with Tracy Bailey for the response. Tracy?
Thanks. That is an excellent question, and certainly in my science classroom, we do hands-on, performance-based learning all the time. It's not just, as Glenn mentioned, it's not just the chalk talk and ditto sheet environment. I think that there are three things that teachers need to be exposed to, or three strategies in terms of helping particularly the secondary schools implement what the elementary schools do so well in terms of this hands-on learning and assessment. The one is just simply exposure and understanding for most of the teachers in the secondary environment. They have heard about portfolio assessment, they've heard about performance-based assessment, but they may not have seen it in action. They haven't been able to walk next door and see somebody using that. That exposure and understanding will help them understand that it is the very best way, I think, for teachers to teach and students to learn. We're not creating a generation of rote memorizers. We're trying to create confident, aggressive problem solvers who can take some skills and move into a different area and create a product. The second thing I think that principals need to do to support this is to have perhaps a voluntary program to encourage teachers to start making a portion, a component of their grading, performance-based. Again, what can students accomplish with your math skills? What can they create? What can they produce? How can they display that in a portfolio or in a hands-on approach? That voluntary approach will allow teachers that might be willing to do it, but right now they say, well, listen, this is the way we do grading at our school, and innovation is really not something I want to stick my neck out on right now. The last area is critical, and I need to address this, and that is that you need to involve parents. When a school moves toward performance-based assessment, you need to involve parents at all levels in that decision-making, because there are parents that are concerned. They have some concerns about schools maybe forgetting the 3 R's and going to this strange form of assessment, or schools going to a values assessment approach where we're trying to do some type of values clarification. And there is nationwide, one of the strongest controversies I run into in my travels are concerns about parents about outcomes-based assessment. You need to involve parents to allay some of those fears and to clearly spell out what will you be doing in your math, science, history, social studies type classes. I think that's a good approach.
All right, thank you for that response from Tracy Bailey in Orlando. We now will pose this next question to Lee Shiver, who is in Gainesville. And Lee, the question is, could there be a policy made for more flexibility for state textbook adoption funds to be used for software or other instructional material? And I'll repeat the question one more time. Again, this is from our site in Bonifay. The question for Lee Shiver in Gainesville. Could there be a policy made for more flexibility for state textbook adoption funds to be used for software or other instructional materials?
I like that split screen a lot. Well, as a matter of fact, that is one of the primary recommendations of the Classroom's First Task Force. There's a piece of legislation right now that's making its way through, I think, both the House and Senate, which in fact would allow the categorical that is established for instructional materials to have much more flexibility in that you would not be required to spend a certain percentage on state-adopted materials. In other words, probably up to 100% could be used on those materials that the school or district felt most appropriate for instructional materials in the schools. And that's coming.
All right, we think we are now going to be going to Miami for our next question, so we'll check in with them. Miami?
Oh, not me.
Whoop. We're going to flip the page here, and this is our next questionnaire, who is Gilberto Bonds, a science teacher from George Washington Carver Middle School.
Good morning. My question is directed toward Henry Hirschman. Is it possible to give tax incentives to businesses for providing assistance to the schools in developing and carrying out math, science, and computer technology? How can we encourage the business community to help us meet our educational goals?
All right, we throw that question to our host in Gainesville.
Yes, tax incentives can be given, and that may help some. But the most effective way is through, I think, local personal contacts. Let's face it, if you have a student in your school whose parent is in business, then go talk with that person. Many business people want to help, but they really don't know how to. Now, I've never known a bashful school teacher with a loss for words. But again, I believe that the issues can best be resolved locally with personal contacts, not with large-scale government incentives.
Thank you for that, and we're going to be checking in with Boynton Beach in just a moment. And again, it's taking a little bit of time to get used to talking back and forth between the cities, so you'll have to bear with us at home or in the live audiences, and we'll try to get things flowing a little bit smoother, but we appreciate everybody's patience and certainly the responses that we've had so far. And now we're ready to check in with Boynton Beach for our next question.
Question at this point for Lou Cleveland in Region 1, and this again deals with the area of curriculum. Can we analyze the effect of changes in curriculum on the productivity of students, and I might sort of add or